What's going on? What's happening? What's good? Part of my presence YouTube channel. Look, this is a live stream. I'm live. All right. I'm going to do a maybe 90-minute live stream in regards to something that I experienced over the weekend. And I want to share with you guys because I think it's something that everyone can learn from, and we can all pull some relatable information from it as well too. Now, this topic does involve, I guess you could say, Black people, whether it's Black people in North America, Canada, or in the US. Now, full disclosure, I am Canadian. I'm from Canada. I live in Toronto. But I do often discuss topics that revolve around the US and Black Americans and foundational Black Americans or ADOS, whatever terminology you want to use. So there's times where I discuss those things, and there are times where people will say, "Well, where are you from? What accent is that? Are you qualified to speak on these things? Who are you? Don't discuss us." But the way I look at it, I am us. I am in that same category. Of course, I'm not the same. The struggles are similar, but not the same. Right? I was never born in the US. I've never lived in the US. I visited, I have family in the US. But as far as the media and what we consume up north, it's similar. Same media that we go through and that we actually consume. Many times we know more about American politics than we know about Canadian politics. So it's only right, or it's only natural that we discuss those things. But I can never say that I know the full experience of a Black American. The school systems are different. The healthcare system is different. The compensation packages are different. The dollar value is different, right? There's so many different things. But at the same time, being a Black person with the same skin, I do face the same struggles as well, too. And I think it's important that we all share our similarities and learn from each other, and also share our differences as well too, so that we also learn from each other through our differences. What can we take from each other with our unique experiences? So all of that is important. I think that's something that we should discuss more, and not be in a situation where we become territorial and we hold on to things, we don't share things amongst each other, because we can all learn, right? And with that said, I do want to bring a guest on. This is a guest I've known for quite some time. I met them virtually, I guess you could say. This is someone that I've had numerous conversations with, um, probably a lot more debates and arguments over these topics. But I wanted to bring her on because I felt that she has a good insight on these things, and she has a good take on these type of topics. So I wanted to bring her in. She goes by the name of SouljaBelle, and let's see if she's on. SouljaBelle, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. Do you have anything that you want to say before I continue?
No,
All right, all right. Now we like to say where you're from or where you're situated in.
I'm in Houston, Texas.
All right, Houston, Texas. Okay. So let me get into the topic of the discussion here today. Okay. Let me put her on. There she is right there. And let me just put on this particular thumbnail. Okay. Now, this thumbnail pretty much goes by, if we know the solution, why do we still believe in our own demise? So let me get into the whole topic. Okay. I was on a, I guess you could call it a forum, a Reddit forum. And I was having a conversation, as well as listening to a conversation between, I guess, what I assume to be Black men in the age range in the 20s, the 30s, possibly in the 40s as well, too. I can't say for sure. But the discussion was about the economy, the cost of living, and how times are tough, and what people are doing to kind of survive. And of course, people get into the whole conspiracy theories, and they get into the whole situation with politics and Joe Biden and so on and so forth. And they talk about the gas, all those different things. So I'm listening. And as you guys are probably familiar, when people talk online, a lot of the times it's not solution oriented, it's venting, it's grieving, it's about letting your voice be heard and complaining and letting off steam, which is all good. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, after you let off that steam, after you have that venting period, in order for the conversation, in order for the debate to be worthwhile, you must go into the next phase, which is solutions. What is it that you're looking to accomplish? Have you looked into how you're going to get there? What's the starting point? How much time is it going to take for you to get there? These are the things that you also need to discuss, not just the gripes, the complaints. But what I've noticed is that a lot of people don't want to discuss the solutions. And in hearing people talk about the economy and the cost of living and things being high, I interjected and I said, I hear everybody and I understand what's going on and inflation, so on and so forth. But what are you guys doing to be able to stay above water? What are you guys doing to make sure that you could afford the cost of living that's obviously increasing? And a lot of people didn't say anything. It was very silent. And then one person said, I'm just going to save my money, not spend much money. I'm going to hold on to as much money as I can. And that, I can't knock him. At least he's participating. He's answering the question. But at the same time, when we're in a situation that we're in now with the economy, where we're dealing with inflation, and let's be upfront. It's not just the U.S. dealing with inflation. Canada's dealing with inflation as well too. The gas prices are high here as well too. But when it comes to inflation, you should know that saving money is actually the last thing you should do, because the rate of inflation is somewhere around 8%, 9%. If you save money, if whether you put it underneath a mattress, it's not going to get any interest. Whether you put it in a savings account, the interest in savings accounts are low. Up here in Canada, you're looking at what, 0.3%. If you put in a GIC, then you're looking at 4%, but nowhere near the inflation rate, right? So in other words, just sitting on your money, you're going to end up losing money. So that's not a solution. Now, the way how I look at it, the best thing for you to do in a case where you're dealing with inflation and cost of living is getting higher and higher, and you can't save because the dollar value is getting lower and lower, the only thing you can really do is to earn more money. And let's be honest, that's not really the best solution, because sometimes you hit the ceiling, you can't make much more, you can't do much more than that. And it's harder to come out from that particular job and to go into a different industry and try to earn more money there. And there's also an issue of, well, I'm more secure in my job now. If I go to another industry, I might not be secure in that job and I might end up being unemployed. And then what happens then, right? Change is something that people fear. So earning more money is not always a viable option. Although it is an option, that's actually a good option. But what I said after I gave time for people to come up with answers, and really there was only one or two answers, I made the suggestion. I said, if you guys can't earn more money and saving money is the wrong thing to do because it's going to lose value at a large rate, then the next step would be to share your expenses. In other words, you might have to shack up with somebody. You might have to split the costs with somebody else. Because at the end of the day, when you look at what your biggest expenses are and where inflation is hitting you the most, it's in rent, it's in mortgage if you own a house because the mortgage rates are going up, it's in the cost of food, the cost of gas as well too. So if you can't get a higher paying job and saving money is not an option, then probably one of the best solutions in this type of economy that we're in is to practice group economics. If you're able to have a roommate, have a partner, you're married, you have a wife, children, a husband, you have family, a brother, a sister that you could all move in into one house. Let's say you have three people, three adults that all earn money full time. You're cutting your rent or your mortgage expenses into three. That savings will save you a lot more than you putting that money into a mattress or putting that money into a savings account or GIC or wherever locked in term that you could put your money in, or the stock market. It also give you the opportunity to have some additional money for you to do whatever you want with it, right? Invest it, or in other words, you get to retain more of that money as well too. So it's very important that if you have the opportunity, find someone that you could trust and split that bill with them. That's probably a more viable option for you. But when I made that suggestion to this group, I got a lot of, no, that's not going to work. Yeah, but can't trust nobody. If I had cookies in a cookie jar and then when I turn my back, my cookies are missing. Like I had people actually come in and make those analogies like, well, I can't trust nobody. Somebody, if there's three people in the house, somebody's going to come in and take our money. And I thought to myself, if you're in a home and you're splitting the bills, it doesn't mean that you're putting your money all in one jar. All it means is that you're sharing the cost of living. You don't have to put all your money in one jar where someone can steal your money. No, no, no. All you're doing is sharing the cost. That's it. But people didn't look at it that way. People looked at it as, I don't trust anybody. There's no one I could trust. No family member you could trust. No friends you could trust. No like minded people. And if there aren't any like minded people or family that you could trust, then the question becomes, what what should be the focus? What should be the goal? Because I'll tell you this right now, the way how I look at it, your network is very important because no one on this earth is an island. We don't, I mean, as much as we like to think that we could do things on our own and we're all individuals, no one is an island. And it's best that we could pair up with people. It's best that we could share things with people, build with people, because that's how we're going to get ahead. Now, before I continue, I want to ask you, Belle, have you experienced a situation where you've offered a solution to somebody and they weren't receptive or they had negative views upon your solution? And how did you handle that particular situation?
Well,
I don't really offer solutions to people. I just sort of tell them what I would do if I was in the situation, and I let them decide what's best for them because I don't know the depth of what's going on in everyone's situation. So the only thing I can do is say, if I was in this situation, this is what I would do, and that's that. And it doesn't mean that my solution or my advice is the right answer, or even that it's going to work out. So I don't really expect anyone to listen to me. I just try to give some insight and some perspective because when I talk to people, I'm not really looking to them for solutions, but sometimes it is nice to have, ideas thrown at you that you may not have thought of yourself. So to answer your question, if someone doesn't, I guess, take my advice or whatever, that's on them. It doesn't really bother me. Is their life, right?
Well, that's true. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't force anyone to listen or to follow your advice. You're right about that. My question though is because in this group that I was involved in, again, they don't speak for everybody, right? It's a small group, but I do find this pushback often sometimes in other conversations. But the interesting thing about it is that a lot of the pushback had to do with the fact that we don't get along with each other, and that as a result of us not getting along with each other, we can't work together to win in this economy in ways that would probably be one of the easiest ways to kind of get ahead, right? And I remember you shared a stat with me the other day as far as the medium income,
Hmm.
right? Where I think the Asian male had the highest median income. I guess this is in was it in North America? Or was it in U.S. specifically?
It was in the U.S.
The U.S. where the Asian male was somewhere in the 90,000 range, and then the white male I think was in the 60,000, if not mistaken, and then the black male was in the 40,000s. Right
Hmm.
now, you could attribute that to many reasons as to why that is, but my thing is this: you have those stats in front of you, 90,000, 60,000, and then 40,000. But if you have two black males in one household, then that 40,000, I think it was 46,000, that 46,000 turns into 90,000. And now you're competing with the Asian at the top. If you add in a third black male, then where are you then? You're making six figures. If you're adding a black woman, you're making more as well too. If you have children who are of age, 16, 17, if they're working, then that adds to the household income as well too. Because the whole idea is that if you find that based on different reasons, you're being held back, or you're not able to earn as much as others, or you're not able to obtain the education in order to earn more, or even if you have the education, you're not able to get the jobs that will put you on par with those people, then the only thing that I can see as a solution is to pair up. And if we're not able to pair up, then I think our focus should go into finding out what the issue is that we're not able to, or to feel like we could trust each other, to even make the attempt to even try it, right? And I'll be honest, it's not just an American thing, because I know uh, if I were to look into my family and I were to ask one of my siblings to say, you know what, let's go and move in, and let's go, go halves and buy a house. Now we put our money together, we could afford it, but then the question becomes, well, I have certain aspirations. I don't want to live with somebody else. I want to have my own place. I want to do this. I want to do that. Like there's a lot of me, or I, ahead of we. There's a lot of individuality that comes into play that kind of blocks us from getting to where we need to be, right? And I wonder why that is. Why do you think, though, that there's a lot more focus on the individual as opposed to a collective? And not like to say a collective as of thousands of people. I mean a collective of your family or people within your inner circle that you could trust. Why do you think that is?
Well, seeing as I'm one of those people that you're referring to, who who's about the individual, I would say to you that when it comes to family, been there, done that. I've tried, and if we're not on the same page, what can I do? I can't force anybody to better themselves. I can't force anyone to get skills. I can't force anyone to go to school. So rather than fight with you, argue with you, try to convince you, I'm going to do what's best for me. And so far, it's worked out for me. Other people, I don't know. I mean, everybody's family is different. Some people actually come from a lot worse families than I have. Actually, my family is not the best, but they're bearable. But at the same time, they didn't want to do anything different. My family has been living in Flint for generations, and it's not really to their benefit, but they don't want to leave because that's all they know, that's where they grew up, and they don't want to see anything different. So once I graduated high school, I was out because I didn't want to stay there. I didn't want to be in Flint. I didn't want to be in Michigan. And um and, and it, it worked out for me, and so I'm for the individual.
And that's a good point, right? There's only so much you could do, and if people don't want to follow you, then you have to go out on your own and do for self. So I definitely understand that. My question is this: when you come from that particular situation where you're seeing your family uh, choosing to remain in their predicament, and you're seeing, I'm pretty sure you kind of thought ahead and saw yourself, if I were to stay here, I'll be in the same situation as everybody else. So I need to venture out and do for self and save myself. Uh, my question, when you do that and you make it on your own and you're able to be above water and be successful doing it by yourself, does that put you in the mindset where you can no longer share with somebody else to build together with somebody else because you you've you've kind of shifted your focus to you as an individual where you no longer have space to open up for another person to come in to share with you? Do you feel that way, that based on doing things for self as an individual, that you kind of closed off from doing things with another person?
No, not necessarily. Um, if if necessary, there are certain people that I know that I would be able to, but if it's not a matter of, it's not a dire need, like there's no reason for me right now to be living with anybody. My cost of living is pretty low, and I make a decent amount, and I can live comfortably. But to answer your question, if there was a dire need and I absolutely had to, yes, there are people that I would be able to do that with, whether it's someone in my family or whether it's with one of the friendships I've cultivated. So no, I don't think I would be closed off to it just because I was able to do it by myself.
Okay. So you cultivated certain friendships where you could depend on that if it comes to that. So that's good. That's good. Now I'll just give you some insight. Here in Canada, there's a housing problem, right? Where the housing market has increased by so much. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Toronto or Vancouver is like one of the most expensive cities to live in, right? And what's been happening, I say for the past, I say 10 years, with immigration being so high, a lot of people coming into the country, everybody needs a place to live, right? And what we've seen is that the people who are buying that property have been either newcomers to Canada or of a certain demographic. I'm not going to say what the demographic is, but it's not black and it's not white. Okay. But a certain demographic is buying the properties. Now, the interesting thing about it is that it's something that everybody sees, everybody's noticing, but no one understands how it's being done. How are people able to buy houses coming into the country as immigrants, right? And I guess I'll say it, it's usually East Asian, right? Um, so they're buying properties, but the thing is, when you see what's happening, because I've had people tell me this firsthand, and I've experienced it firsthand as well too, is that if you were to, let's say you own the property and you were to sell your property because you want to upgrade or you're moving to a different city, the person who buys it off of you, it's not them alone. There's like two or three people on the ownership or the title, assuming the mortgage. And then when you go back to check to see, who moved in or how they're upkeeping the property, you'll notice that they've paved the driveway so they can add extra cars. There'll be 6 cars in the driveway. So in other words, they got rid of the grass up front, 6 cars in the driveway, and it's packed. There'll be 6 cars in the driveway, and there'll be a car parked perpendicular on the street. And the reason why is because what they're doing is that they're having like generations within their household. So they have the mother, the children, and they have the grandparents, and then they have the cousins and other relatives all living in the same place. It might be a 3-bedroom house, but there's 9 people living there. And then what they're doing is that about 4 of them have incomes. You have the grandparents who are collecting all kind of government checks every which way. So they have maybe 5 different income streams coming in. They're able to pay the mortgage. No matter how high the mortgage is, they're able to pay the mortgage. And then what they do after a certain amount of time, they'll use the house as leverage to go buy another house. So some of the 9 people in the house, one of them will go and they'll buy another house, and then maybe 3 of them will transfer to another house. Or what they'll do is that they'll buy that new house and then they'll rent it out. So they use that as a rental property, and then they'll get people to come in and then they rent the house, and then they keep doing that. 3rd house, 4th house, and this is how people are attaining houses in this particular fashion. And the problem that people are facing is that with all these people doing these things, no one's able to compete to buy property. You have people like myself, if I'm a single father looking to buy property, I'm not able to compete with a buyer who has 3 or 4 people able to put the name on the mortgage and pay a lot more than I can. And this is what's happening. You get people who are priced out of the market. I don't know if that happens in the US, but that's happening here. Now, the reason why this is getting done is because they're practicing group economics and they're able to pool their money together and buy all these things. And I'll be honest, there's a lot of conflict that happens in the house as well too. You hear about stories of people being murdered by their husband or by the brother. So there's conflict in those houses as well too, but they still do it. Now, I'm not saying that we're supposed to follow in their footsteps or that we could do it if they could do it. But what I'm saying is that you'll notice that certain people are doing things and they're getting ahead. They don't really make that much more money than some of us do as individuals. But when they pool that money together, they're able to have more buying power, right? And what I've noticed in when it comes to, I guess you could say, the black culture, whether it's Canadian or whether it's in the US, what I find is that we're more focused on individuality than we are on intact family structure, where you'll have the black woman living on her own, you'll have the black man living on his own, and the more of us that are separated, that means there's more housing that we need, right? Because we all need to find a place to live. And as a result of that, we're not able to compete with everybody else if there's three or four or five people that we're competing with. No one's income is that high. No matter how good of a living you think you make, you're not able to compete with three or four or five incomes, right? So I wonder what the solution is, because I don't see this getting any better. The cost of living is going to keep going up. And as we all know, if you look at the price of gum, back when I was young, the price of gum was 5 cents. You could buy gum, 25 cents. Now it's $1.50, $2, $3, and it doesn't go back down. So the cost of living is not going to return to normal. This is going to be the new normal. It just won't, maybe it might stall and won't increase. So there has to be a shift in what we do here and how we maintain our life, because I don't see individuality being as fruitful as it was maybe about 5 years ago. So I wonder, what do you think of that? And do you have like a game plan for this?
You had someone in the back chat. I don't know if he's still there, but yeah. I mean, like I said, I have people that if it comes to that, we can work together. Right now, it's just not much of a concern for me because I don't know, in Canada, like you said, like I don't know, because we have a lot of immigrants here too in Texas, but I also know it's a lot of land, it's a lot of property down here. So I don't know. I don't want to say I'm not concerned about it, but if the best way for me to answer that is if push comes to shove, I have people, other women that we have a game plan for how we're going to move forward if the situation becomes that dire where we have to live together. But for the most part, the people that I network with, I mean, most of them already, they already have property themselves already, and they know how to get it if necessary. So it's just not it's not really a concern to me right now. I don't know if that answers the question.
No, you're good. You're doing good. You're answering the questions. So then, what? Okay, so then, should we? Okay, so in a case where it seems like you know what you're doing, you have a good head on your shoulders, and you kind of planned ahead on certain things. Is it important that we share our knowledge with other people, or do we look at it and say, well, if the knowledge is out there, the resources are at our fingertips. There's never been a time when education has been so accessible. Education, as far as you going out educating yourself, there's books out there, there's libraries are available, there's the internet, there's YouTube you could go on. So there's so many ways to learn and to teach yourself. So if someone doesn't want to educate themselves on these things, then do we even try to assist others or help others, or do we look at it and say that it's their free will and they're not looking to change their circumstances?
Well, when you say we, who are you referring to?
I'm referring to, I guess you could say, the black culture.
Yeah, see, I don't have that outlook. I don't look at the black culture as like my responsibility or my family or anything like that. I'm only concerned about the people that I'm close to, and most of them have the same mindset. They're doing their own work, and they're doing their own research and things for themselves. So when you say share knowledge with people, share knowledge with who? Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't be concerned, to be honest with you, with what everybody is doing like that. And you know that this is one of the reasons why we have the debates that we have. Um, so yeah, I don't look at things from a community standpoint, because just because you're black, you're not necessarily in community with me. The community is the people that I fostered those relationships. The community is people that I know personally. The community for me is someone that if I was in a bind, I could call them, and I know for a fact that they will be able to assist me in some kind of way. I can't do that with everybody just because they're black. So no, I don't have that same understanding, that you or others may have, that it's our responsibility. No, everybody's not my responsibility. I'm my responsibility, and then the people that I love, then they can be my responsibility if necessary.
I like that answer because part of the discussion that I had with people, a lot of the solutions that they came up with was solutions that are larger than life. Like I told you before, this one person said that no, we need to have a black bank because we need to be able to do things through the bank, and this, not, and a third. And I mean, you pointed out that there are already black banks that exist, right? But not only that, a black bank is not going to change your outcome within your household, right? I find that a lot of people, especially with activism, they focus on, uh, I guess, an unattainable goal, and they think too big. And the reason why they do that is because they're trying to, in my opinion, continue the fight and to continue raising funds and getting donations, and it'll never end, right? I mean, if things were resolved, then there'll be no need for activists. That's how I look at it, and I'm referring to today's activists, like the Tamika Mallory's, the Ben Crump, and people who kind of do things for financial gain, right? But what I noticed that a lot of people, they focus on the outward and what other people are doing, so to speak, and not focusing on what they could do in their own household, right? And you make a good point that you can only control your inner circle, your friends that you've cultivated relationships with, your household, and to make sure that that is intact for you. And to be honest, I agree because that's really the only thing that anyone can control. It's within their own house, right? I can't control what someone does in, let's say, Nova Scotia, right? Or in Winnipeg, or in the US or Connecticut, anywhere. I can't control your outcome. I can only control mine, uh, my family, because they're more inclined to listen to me. Uh, I'm more inclined to be able to trust them and build with them and those things. So the focus should always be on the inward, what inner, as far as what we can do to assist each other within the house. And I think that if everybody focused on that, number one, you'll have less issues with people having mental health issues, in my opinion, right? You also have people who won't be as spent and as disenfranchised with their government, because I find a lot of people focus on the government to solve their problems, or religion to solve their problems, or even money to solve the problems, right? Where really, if you focus on what's happening within your household, if you have the proper foundation, everything else starts from that, right? There's no amount of money that could solve a household that's in turmoil, right? There's no amount of praying that could assist a household that is dysfunctional. You have to focus on what the issue is at home first and get that resolved. And then from there, if you've built that trust, if you've built the camaraderie within your own family or within your own household structure, or your group of friends, then from there, everything else becomes easier because now you have a network where you can depend on. Each one teaches one. Each one has each other's back. It's a group of like-minded individuals that come together as a collective, and that's how we win. The small wins are the most important wins because it's the small wins that we can actually control and do for each other, right? That's how I look at it. Um, I don't know. Do you agree with that, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, okay, good, good, good. So I want to bring. So I have a guest on here that's been waiting in the shadows for a while. So my apologies, Urban, but I want to bring you on. I want to hear your take and provide some input as well too. Urban therapist, how you doing, brother?
I don't even want to talk no more. Had me up in the green room. I done ate up all the M&Ms and everything.
Yep, I try to bring you out when the time came, man. You know how it is sometimes.
But now, salute to y'all. Salute to everyone. This is a very, very interesting topic. Salute to everyone. Salute to everyone in the chat as well who is tuning in. Now, both of y'all made some very, very valid points about this topic. Now, I also agree with y'all dealing with the notion of group economics. I believe that in the day and age that we're living in right now, group economics will be very beneficial for us. But however, the only paradigm that we're dealing with this is just dealing with the compliance of people. Like what SouljaBelle said, she makes sure that she's sitting around with like-minded people, which you know what I'm saying, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But what tends to happen is sometimes people will evolve, or they'll evolve into in a way where they beyond the original plan or the original one goal, if that make any sense. Sometimes some people they'll evolve into a point where they want even more. Like say for example, SouljaBelle, you're probably content at where you're at right now. But however, the people that you're networking with or you're linking with, they're not content. They want more. So that type of behavior, it tends to disvalue the whole entire group economic mindset or the whole group economic mentality. And this is what we deal with right now. Not only as a culture, for us, if we want to look at it for us, race concern, not only as a race, but thus as us as humans, period. Because we all desire different things. We all desire different ambitions. And sometimes some of us, we lack morality. And so due to us lacking morality, we're getting into this mindset that we'll do whatever it takes, even if it's causing us to stab each other in the back to get it done, then that's what we're going to do. And that's where the problem is at. That's why we're in the condition that we're in. We're in the same condition in the United States as it is in Canada. We deal with the same issue. Just like just like what SouljaBelle said, we do the same thing in the United States, especially in Texas. You know what I'm saying? Due to us being closer to the border in Mexico, we deal with that. We get immigrants in and everything, so we deal with that on a daily basis. So
Thank you for adding that. Um, I just want to add to that because in Canada, um, it's weird because back when Pierre Trudeau, which was the father of the current prime minister, so back in the 70s when he was the prime minister, he opened the borders to uh, a lot of Caribbean people, right? So you have Jamaicans coming in, uh, Trinidadians coming in, everywhere from the Caribbean, right? And even from places like Nigeria and Ghana and West Africa. They all came in during that wave of the 70s, uh, maybe the early 80s, right? Now, since then, there hasn't been any, in my opinion, any influx of people from Black countries coming into Canada. It's been mostly Asians, whether it's Indians or Pakistani or Sri Lankans, or it's Chinese, Korean, Filipino, so on and so forth. So there's been a shift in regards to uh, the quote unquote new immigrants that are coming into the country. And what we've noticed is that uh, a lot of times deportations are happening amongst Black immigrants where they're being sent out. There was one story that I read recently where it was a Nigerian couple, it was a lady. She came into Canada 19 years ago, right? And in that 19-year period of time, she was working, so she was paying taxes and she was productive. She actually got married as well too, and had other kids who, of course, because they were born in Canada, they're Canadian. But when she came into the country from Nigeria, she came with her eldest son. For whatever reason, I don't know why, but in those 19 years, they never became permanent citizens. So when she got married, once you get married, you could actually apply to get permanent residence because now she married a Canadian. When she put in the request for that, she received a letter saying now she has to leave the country within 30 days. Now there's a backlog on permanent residence, so she's probably gonna have to wait maybe 3 or 4 months just to get an answer on her application. But they're trying to kick her out in 30 days. So there's a lot of that that's happening in regards to certain groups of people being forced out of the country for various issues, whereas other people are coming into this country left, right, and center, and they're pretty much flooding certain areas of the country. Right now, I say that to say that when we look at the community, what was once considered like like a black neighborhood or a black community or a black hub of people who have businesses in certain areas, places that you could go to shop and buy things, within either Caribbean culture, African culture, or just black culture in general. Those things are disappearing, right? And what's even worse is that if you want to go from, say, quote unquote, a lower class neighborhood to a more middle class neighborhood, you're pretty much guaranteeing that you're going from an area where there's more black people to an area where there's no black people at all. Right. So I say that to say that a lot of times this community or this togetherness, the idea of working together and having something that we could call our own, and having an insular environment where we could actually thrive and be ourselves and be familiar with each other and pool our resources, all of that is disappearing. And you find yourself being the one lonely individual on the street full of all other races and ethnicities, and you're the only black person there, right? And I find that there's a lot of times where black people have to learn to navigate being the only one, right? Whether it's going to university or going to a college, and you're the only black person in your program. I've dealt with that where I was the only black guy in my program, and I'm dealing with Asians who don't want to talk to me because I'm not Asian. And as a result of that, when it comes time to try to work and have study groups, I'm the odd person out. So I've dealt with that. I know many people have dealt with that as well too. So when you deal with that, it's almost like you're learning to be an individual. You're learning to do for yourself just for the sake of surviving. And you end up in a situation where, because you're so used to being the only one, whenever you find another like-minded black person, you're almost either intimidated by them or you're almost taken aback by them, which is crazy, right? But it's because we've been for so long been our own person trying to navigate this world, right? Where really, when you see another black person end up in the same space as you should be welcoming them in as well too, and you should be trying to build with them and connect with them. But sometimes there's that either animosity or there's that barrier where it's like I've been the only black person for so long. I'm more used to being the only one, and I've learned to function as the only one. And it's hard to kind of build with each other because of that. I don't know. What do you guys feel about that? Do you guys agree with that, or do you guys have different experiences?
Well, I would say that I don't see it as it disappearing per se. I just see that it's not getting as much traction, and the reason why is based on what you just said, PMP. Where you like say for example, you have a type of business, and you're not getting the support due to not networking, and utilizing the networking to where uh, you could be able to advertise your business or promote it or promote each other business. That's where the issue is at, But even though you're not getting as much traction or recognition, that doesn't mean that you doesn't exist. Period. It doesn't mean you just exist on a lower level or a lower playing field. So once again, it all based on the mindset of the people and stuff. Like, and I modern day culture, what I'm saying, in our generation, the future generation, we've been programmed to be for self, which in a way it's nothing wrong with being for self in a way. But when it comes to deal with group economics, when it due to, what I'm saying, us existing as humans, period, then it becomes a problem because it have to come to a point where you're going to have to need someone in order to exist. You won't be able to
Yeah,
exist just by yourself.
yeah.
Yeah, you definitely going to have to need someone. I mean, this the whole concept about even with procreation. The argument about procreation and different things like that too. Nature itself designed us to be with each other, where you're designed to have someone there, whether it's through companionship, whether it's through procreation, whether it's through social interaction, whatever the case may be. Nature had designed and intended to be that way. But the only problem is that when you deal with people with negative behavior, with negative actions, and they did things to you to hurt you or to betray your trust, then yeah, it'll make you want to be quote unquote a hermit, where you just want to do your own thing and do it, which like I say is fine, but you only just gonna get this a portion of what you're entitled to.
I agree. I agree. I wanna throw in a quote that Bell sent to me, which I felt was crazy because I couldn't believe that this was actually said by this particular person. Of course, back how many decades ago, right? Or maybe even a century ago. But I want to throw this on the screen here. I don't know if y'all can see this. This is by Booker T. Washington, right?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, so I'll just read it out. It pretty much says there's another class of colored people who make a business of keeping the troubles, the wrongs, and the hardships of the Negro race before the public. Having learned that they are able to make a living out of their troubles, they have grown into the settled habit of advertising their wrongs, partly because they want sympathy and partly because it pays. Some of these people do not want the Negro to lose his grievances because they do not want to lose their jobs. Now, when she sent this to me, and Belle, I hope you're still there. When you sent this to me, I was taken aback because when I spoke to you about my frustration about this debate that I had with people, this pretty much summed it up. Where it's like people are more used to airing out their grievances, and they're more used to pretty much displaying that for everyone to see instead of actually trying to move forward and move past it, right? And the sad part about it is that a lot of times we are financially rewarded for displaying dysfunction. We see it in the media. We also see it on YouTube. I know Urban, you've discussed it too, in regards to bullying and how with YouTube and algorithm and how it works. It's almost like people who are involved in the beast sector, they're rewarded, which fuels the need or the desire to continue with that content. So we've seen this, right? And it's odd to me that this is coming from the Booker T. Washington. Sometimes you get like a quote and they attribute it to someone, but it's a fake quote, like they never said it. But Belle, you said that this was actually from Booker T. Washington, and this to me it resonates with everything that's going on in this world as we know it. So, what's your take on that, Belle or Urban, when you read this quote? What do you guys think of it?
Oh, go ahead, ladies first.
Belle,
Uh,
you there?
yeah, I'm here. Wait a
Go
minute.
ahead. What do you think of the quote that because you this was your quote, you brought this up.
Right. Give me just 1 second. I'm looking at it again to see what I'm. There's another. Keeping in trouble. Well, I mean, while I may agree with the quote, I wasn't really a fan of him because he had a very sketchy past. He in public, he proclaimed to be he wanted to be friendly or even brotherly with whites, and then on the back end he was supporting more of the radical movements, but he was also trashing them as well. And then I don't know if you all seen the movie Self-Made with him and Madam CJ Walker. He did not want to support her, which was a black woman entrepreneur at the time. So I'm not really a fan of this dude, but for the quote's sake, yeah, I think there's some truth to it.
Okay. And to be well, full disclosure, you're pro black woman,
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely.
Okay. And I wanted to ask you this because this was something that it always not bugs me, but it always something that I always wonder why. Um, I find that when someone is or has a certain intelligence level or has a certain accomplishments, they don't want to have children. I know we spoke about this before, and if I'm not mistaken, you don't want to have any children at all, correct?
That's correct.
And what I always wonder is why is it that uh, when it comes to, and again, this might be across the board. It might not be a race thing at all. It might just be across the board, all over, where people who either are established or have a certain education level, they don't want to procreate. When I mean, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, both of you guys, the best people to procreate, especially for us, would be to be the most intelligent people or the people who have things, uh, have established things, right? Um, I know Urban. I know you have children. I have children as well too. So I guess we're doing our parts, right? But I always wonder why a lot of times a lot of intelligent people they don't want to have kids. When I would think that they would be the best people to have them. What do you guys think about that?
Um, well, before I answer that question, let me, if you don't mind, let me piggyback on this Booker T. Washington quote.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Uh, Now, I also seen that movie as well on Self Made, and I also know about Booker T. Washington history as well too. Now, to be honest and to be really really transparent about this quote, even though it is a true quote, but he really was using this quote because there was certain Negroes that wasn't part of his personal agenda. Let's be real about it. That's why he said what he said about this particular quote, even though it is true, But yeah, he was basically referring that to Negroes who didn't want to be on the same agenda as he was because he had what is known as a middle class house Negro mentality. To be real about it, to be absolutely real about it. That's
Okay.
where his mom was at. So it is what it is with that. But do I say even though it's true. Now, for us the procreation part, um, I believe that wealthier people do want to procreate, but they don't procreate for the reasons as middle class and middle class and poor people will want to procreate. Through my research, I found that most middle class and poor people they procreate because of want to deal with emotional attachment, meaning that they
Yeah.
they love this person and they want to spend the rest of their life and they just want to have the white picket fence and all this stuff there. But wealthier people, they don't procreate for that. When they do, they want to procreate to want to continue their inheritance. They want to procreate to continue the legacy of whatever type of inheritance that they have, whether it's on military value, whether it's on, whatever the case may be. Like, say, for example, the Queen of England and her lineage. You know what I'm saying? They continue to procreate because they want the lineage to stay within the house. So they'll procreate for that particular reason. Just like other welfare people that procreate with other people who are procreating, you know what I'm saying, just to keep the lineage going. So basically, a long story short, it's more of a business move versus middle class or poor class where they just procreated because of feelings and emotion.
So it's more strategic then, I guess you're saying.
Hmm.
Okay. 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 Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not the most familiar with Booker T. Washington and his story. Um so yeah, I need to look. What's the name of the movie or documentary you said that was self-made?
Yeah, self-made.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I mean, that was a Netflix movie. I don't know how much of it is actually
Oh,
uh,
the Madam C.J. Walker story, you mean?
right, but
Self-made.
I think that
Okay,
quote
yeah, yeah.
actually, I think that quote actually came from his book, which is Up from Slavery, and I read that a really, really long time ago, like high school, so I don't remember a lot. But yeah, the movie Self Made, that was a Netflix movie, but it was a good movie, so you should watch it.
Yeah, yeah, I did see that, but I didn't get a chance to watch that. Okay. Okay, yeah, I have to put it on my list.
Yeah, I remember reading that book as well too in my Black History class when I was in school.
Yeah, I'm more familiar with Frederick Douglass, but yeah, I have to get more information on Booker T. Washington. But yeah, I mean, when I saw this quote, I was like, wow, this you could apply this today in some ways, right? Based on what you see on media and everything else. Now, I wanna use this quote to get into. Again, this might be a little bit off topic, but it's relevant. If we look into what's happening now with the whole Sesame Street thing, right? You guys are aware of the whole Sesame Street thing and the Muppet ignoring the two children, the two black girls, and it's become a viral thing and a viral moment where now people are saying that it's racist and so on and so forth. Um, I don't know. Let me know because and I want to do a video on this as well too. But when I look at that particular story, a couple of things that come to mind is number one, we don't even know who it is underneath that Muppet suit. Like they've never said who it was. We don't know, and I'm wondering, like, is it even? Could it be a black person underneath that suit? We don't know, and could that be what the next shoe is to drop as far as what if the corporation decides to let's give let's talk to a particular black employee and let's offer them a bonus, whether it's 10,000 or 20,000, for them to become the person that was in the suit and pretty much be outed as that particular person. Then at that point you can't claim racism, right? Because I found it odd that they've never revealed who it was that was doing that. And then there's other videos that are coming out of other instances where they're ignoring other black children as well too. And there's one video I saw where it's a it's a Muppet who has like a big belly, and they pretty much run over a black child. The child was no more than 3 years old, and they pretty much ran up to her and bumped her down with their belly. It's the weirdest video. I don't know if have you seen it? Have you guys seen it?
Yeah, I seen her.
Yeah, you've seen it. I don't know what the context of it is. Like how is that even allowed? And my thing, because I saw this video of, I guess it was a skit where it was a Elmo, and I guess it was a skit in New York where the black mother uh, pretty much watched Elmo, ignore her child, and she pretty much, stopped Elmo from walking away and made sure that Elmo acknowledged her child, right? And my thing is this: when I read this quote, and I think about certain instances. I know me as a father, if and I've done this where if my son were to say hello to a stranger or to any adult, and that adult doesn't acknowledge my son, I stop the adult and I tell him, I said, my son spoke to you, he said hello to you, and I get them to make sure that they say hello back or to acknowledge my son, right? I don't let it go. I don't let that moment pass, because I think it's important that, number one, as a parent, if I'm present, that the only time I have to protect my children is in the moment, not a week later and make it go viral and get everyone involved after the fact. It's within that moment for me to step up to say, okay, I need to correct this before it gets out of control, right? And the other part is that if I confront the person in real time and they decide to, pretty much say, you know what, I'm not going to acknowledge your son, whatever the case may be, then I have two options. The first option is to pretty much create a fight right then and there, and pretty much settle the situation. Or, and this is the other part to it that I think that's very important. The other part is have the conversation with my child and let them know that, look, either this man is having a bad day or this man is miserable. This man is making this decision, but it has no reflection on who you are or your value. And it doesn't mean that going forward that you can't say hello to other people. You could definitely say hello to other people, because majority of the people are going to respond to you. The majority of people are going to acknowledge you, and they're going to accept you and going to respond and say hello back. And it's not something where you have to hold your value into this one incident and let it change your beliefs or change your opinion on how human beings are, or a particular race is, or whatever the case may be. You want to deal with the issue right away. You want to address the issue with your child right away, because you don't want your child to internalize that and make it seem like there's something wrong with me, right? And I wonder, when I see that footage, what was done at the moment, what was done right after the moment by the parent. Did she console her child? Did she tell her child that, look, these Muppets are not even real? That these Muppets, if you take off their cloak or take off their hood, it's some fool who's paid either minimum wage, or some fool who doesn't like their job and is not a real person. It's not the Rosalita that you see on TV. These are fictional characters. It's the same thing as Santa Claus. If you live in the projects and you live in an apartment and you don't have a chimney, it doesn't mean that Santa Claus is not coming to you because you've been a bad person or a bad girl or a bad boy. Santa Claus does not exist, right? You almost have to have that conversation with your children, and you have to let them know, what's really going on, and you have to instill in them the fact that your value is not held in being acknowledged by some fictional character, right? So I wonder sometimes when I look at these videos that go viral, what is the underlying message? Are they trying to pretty much beat into us that we don't hold the same value? And because there's money involved, a lot of times we take the stance of playing up the victim role because we're going to be rewarded in that role, right? We see people like Benjamin Crump come out. He didn't come out for this one, but he comes up often. And then there's Tamika Mallory who comes up and they play the role, and then there's monetary gain that comes out of it. So I wonder what you guys' opinion is on the whole not McDonald's, the whole Sesame Street thing, and what's your take on it? And what do you do? What I said I would do, as far as I would correct the issue right then and there.
Well, the issue is this: is that many of us we teach our children what is reality and what is fictitious, right? But there are others who don't do that. And the reason why they don't do that is because they feel that it's harmless fun. It's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing wrong with their children believing in Santa Claus. It's nothing wrong with their children believing in the Easter Bunny. It's no harm for the children believing in ammo or whoever the case may be. And so they see it as harmless fun. Hell, that's the reason why they took them to the park to begin with in the first place, because they want them to live out their young childhood. You know what I'm saying? In this false sense of reality. Let's be real about it. But just like you say, the solution behind it is to have that realistic conversation with your children. But if you're not doing that, then all you're doing is enabling them. You know what I'm saying? You're letting them know that it's okay to have this certain type of worldview. One thing about Sesame Street that I do not agree with that Sesame Street does is they teach the children about imagination, right? Now, the reason why I don't agree with imagination, because it once again they teach the children about living in this false sense of a worldview, saying that this is the only reality that you should want to believe in, and everything else don't exist. But once when they grow up and they become adults, they see that the reality is totally different from what they've been brought up to being exposed to. You know what I'm saying? So
Right, right.
so I believe that it's the like I say, it's the parents' job to teach the children the truth about that. Then also, I do agree that at that moment you have to take accountability for the action. If you feel that there's any type of grievances that you're happening with any type of these characters, whatever, you need to confront that situation right then and there. I mean, sure, that's why I do. Like, say for example, my children. Matter of fact, we went to Disney World and stuff, right? Say
Yeah,
for
I remember.
example, we went to Disney World, right? And my youngest daughter, right? She loved Minnie Mouse, right? And the character of Minnie Mouse would acknowledge her. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to see the reason why. I'm gonna figure it out. Even if I have to go to the one person who's part of the management, I want to figure out like, hey, you're here, you're paid to do a job, you're here to entertain, and I wonder why this happened this sort of way with my child, and I'll show them the video proof of it right then and there. Like, hey, this is what they did. As you can see, this character is acknowledging this child. Why you're not acknowledging my child? Instead of waiting and trying to post it on social media to try to
Exactly.
get clout.
Yep, yep. And the thing is, because as adults, you know that it's a fictional character. You know that there's someone underneath that in the suit. You're gonna address it right away, because again, to me, I look at it and say, you know what, this person, I know it is they're not a real character, so I'm gonna address them as the person underneath that suit. That's just like you or I, and find out, hey, you see my child, address my child. I paid too much money for these theme parks for you to
Hmm.
not acknowledge my child, and they're right there. It's not like you didn't see them, and that was a thing that they tried to play off and said, you know, sometimes there's a visibility issue where you can't even see who's in front of you.
Yep. Yeah, that's
When
I mean to cut you off, but
yeah,
I know through experience that is her lie. The
yeah,
reason why,
yeah,
because when I had covered this on topic, I made the point that when I was younger, right, I had worked at Chuck E. Cheese's, right, and I was actually part of my job was to actually be Chuck E. Cheese, right. So when I put on that Chuck E. Cheese costume, even though their head was big and all the stuff there, when you put on that costume, right, you can see everything. You can see everything. The only other thing that you cannot see is what's behind you. That's it. And normally when
Hold on. Sorry, were you the rat?
yeah, I was the
You
rat.
the rat?
Chuck E. Cheese, sure was dancing and everything. Sure was.
Okay, go on, go on.
But yeah, the only part about that is the if you wasn't able to see behind you, well, without you turning your body all the way around. You know what I'm saying? But normally in that situation, that's why even on the videos that you see with the Sesame Place video, you always see them walking with a person. The reason why they walk with a person is because that person is for their visibility for the back because they can't see behind them. So they have a person walking with them to cover seeing from behind. So that was the only thing. But other than that, sitting in the front, there's a big old slot where you literally seeing everything. You can see everything in front of you. So that's what I'm saying. That's a huge cap. They would align on that, bro.
Yeah, I agree, and it's funny because TMZ put out they, you know how it is, man. There's always someone taking pictures and having different angles. So TMZ found another angle of the incident, right? And what they show, I'm trying to get the video right now or get the screen. What they show is the character right after they snub the two black girls. The character goes and hugs another child right beside them, and you can actually see the black mother looking at the Muppet in pretty much disbelief. It's crazy. So yeah, I agree. I mean, you are able to see these children. I mean, she's not she, the Rosalita, the character swerved to avoid them, so clearly they saw, right? But it's just so odd. I'm of the mindset that if there's something that is done wrong to me, I have to address it right away. Because I've been in a situation where I didn't address it, and you replay it in your head 1,000 times, and it hurts more because you didn't step up. You didn't do what you should have done, and I don't like that feeling, right? So I need to address it then and there. I can't let it slide. And I
Yeah,
find that if you address things in the moment, then number one, it gives that person an out to say, my bad, I forgot, I'm sorry, and then they come back and they resolve the matter. Even if it was, a racist undertone, or the the intention was steeped in racism, they're going to take that out to say, let me correct that, because they don't want to be called out in the moment and have, more issues, right? And to me, even if they are racist, because you can't, if people don't like you, they're not going to like you. You can't control that, right? You'll never eradicate racism. That's how I feel. There'll always be racism because people just differentiate themselves in certain ways and they have certain beliefs. The goal is not to be liked. The goal is to be respected and to be treated equally, right? So my whole thing is that if you could correct it in the moment, and if they take the out to say, you know what, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do and go on and look for maybe another victim because someone else might not be able to stand up to me, whatever the case may be, or maybe by me calling them out, it's going to correct them to say, you know what, I better not do this to another child because I'm going to get called out in the moment, right? Because for it to be called out a week or 2 weeks later, like I said, we don't even know who it was. It's never come out. So we don't know who that person is. We don't even know what race that person is. We don't know if that person was even spoken to, right? So there's so many things, in my opinion, that happens when you let things slide like that. And I don't think it's a good feeling as a parent to have your child be subjected to that, and you had the opportunity to do something in the moment and you didn't, right?
yeah. See, I have a different perspective about that. Like, I believe that some things it ain't for you to always call it out right then and there in the moment all the time. I believe that certain situations require certain type of wisdom and knowledge. You know what I'm saying when you're doing it. Now, for us dealing with this particular situation, yeah, absolutely, because what's going to happen is that if you don't do that, then your child is going to be looking at you too, and they're going to be trying to figure out daddy or mommy, why you didn't address this even further.
Yeah.
So they're going to lose that type of that they could possibly lose that type of connection from you, that connection that you're supposed to protect them
Yeah.
at all
Yeah.
costs. You know what I'm saying? So that particular situation, yeah, absolutely. But for us being grown adults and we deal with grown adults situation, there's situation where you just have to exercise wisdom. You know what I mean? Because sometimes when as what who's that? Oh, Dave Chappelle. When you was looking at the Dave Chappelle show, right? He had that segment talking about when keeping it real goes
Yeah, it
wrong.
goes wrong. Yep. Yep. No, you're right.
So some situations where you keep it real, it real go wrong because you don't know what that person's intentions are. You probably say something to him, and next thing you know, you up in the grave just because you want to keep it real,
No, it's true.
or having the Negro moment. So you have to be really, really, really cautious about that. You know what I'm saying?
No, you're absolutely right. I actually almost had a moment. It was at a theme park, not a theme park. It was an indoor playground, and this guy, there's a lineup for a particular part of the theme park or part of the indoor playground. Like there's a jousting thing. So there's a line of kids going to on the jousting platform, and this guy decided to come in there with three children. They're younger children, but he decided to commandeer the whole area and have his three children go up one at a time after the other and ignore everyone else that's in line, including my kids as well too. And I spoke to him. I said, "Look, you have kids that have been waiting patiently in line, and here you are, as the adults, putting your kids in front of them. Oh, I just want to get it done so then we could go." So I I I upped the ante on him, and he decided to take his kids and walk away. But he didn't really address anything with me, and I made a mistake. I followed him. Now, mind you, this is a indoor playground. There's hundreds of kids and parents in there, and I followed him, and he walked off. And you know how it gets you even more upset when people ignore what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to follow him, and then I caught myself. So I'm like, am I really going to do this in front of hundreds of kids and parents? Am I really going to have that moment where I'm going to try to start a fight or a confrontation where I'm yelling in front of children? And I caught myself. I'm like, you know what? No, this is the wrong thing to do. You've already spoken your piece. He's left. Go back to your kids. They're playing. Everything is fine, right? But you're right. You're right. It's not always the way to confront and to be that person, because you're right. There's definitely other ways you can resolve things, and there's also a time and a place, right? So no, I agree 100% on that.
Yeah, then also that then a great takeaway from that two PNP is that but we have to realize as us being grown adults is that children is going to always mimic our behavior as part of their learning process.
Yes,
So
yes,
if they look at us as grown adults and we don't know how to deal with conflict resolution, they're going to mimic the same type of behavior and do the same exact thing even by them being young. Like say for example, they're confronted by something and they're like, well, shoot, daddy did it this way. I'm gonna do it the same exact way because daddy was keeping it real.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you're right about that. So there definitely is a certain way to handle things, right? You can speak up in a moment. You can also take the other route, which is to get a hold of corporate and file complaints officially and have it on record. I know, I think Morticia mentioned that. Also, Mahogany. And shout out to everyone in the chat: Kayshawn, Morticia, Mahogany. Who else? Mark was up in here as well too. So thank you guys for coming in and showing support. I appreciate that. But yeah, there's definitely different ways to address this. I think you could do all of them, right? But I think it's important to address things then and there sometimes, but also to make it official and to file a report, because you're right. You don't know if this continues after you've spoken to them, they might still continue to do it, and you don't want other children to be subjected to that. So you want to
Hmm.
file an official report and make sure it's on the books and it's on record. So you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Yep, true.
No, I agree with that.
But we could. I mean, after when I reviewed them videos, I could tell that there really wasn't no real resolve behind that, other than that they wanted to get the clout and notoriety. Because just like I always say on my own platforms, is that views and notoriety has become the new currency for this modern day culture. It's getting even more it's even more popular than actual money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, the attention's a new currency because everybody. I don't know. I could go into this in full detail as far as uh, put it this way: no one's watching TV anymore, right? Everybody is doing their own things. They're avoiding commercials. So the only way for advertisers to be able to reach the youth, which is the biggest buy-in segment, is to find other ways to reach them. And one of those ways is through music, through social media. So that's where people are bombarded. So uh, what ends up happening is that if you have a large following, that's the same thing as having a high rated TV show, right? So if you have a large following and you have people tune into your lives, you have thousands of people that are a captive audience, they're going to come to you and offer you money to continue getting a captive audience. And this is where you get into the whole situation where people start doing anything for clout, right? And this is where people start doing things just to maintain a certain following and a certain attention, because that's what draws in the money, right? So,
Hmm.
so yeah, I agree with that as well. I'm trying to get this. I'm trying to get this footage, but I think everyone has probably already seen it. Let me see if I could get it up here. Give me 1 second. While I'm doing this, Belle, are you still there? Do you have anything you want to add or anything you want to say?
No, not about Sesame Street.
No, you don't want to add any militant points to it.
Why does it gotta be militant?
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. That's fine. Um, what I will say, well, let me close it off. I do want to put this picture up. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can get this picture up. Let me see. Nah, it won't show. But yeah, pretty much it's on TMC. If you want to see the picture of this particular incident here, maybe let me
Yep.
see.
Yeah, StreamYard
Let me
been
see.
been tripping lately, though.
Yeah, I know. Let me see. Let me share my screen. Let's see. Where is it? Where is it? There we go. Let me see if you guys can see this.
Oh yeah, we could see it.
You can see it on the screen. Okay, let me.
Hmm.
So this is a video, right? So you see that there. So these are the two black girls that we saw from the other angle, and this is
Hmm.
the Muppet. You see, not even a meter away, 2 steps away, and she's acknowledging another set of kids. That's
Hmm.
crazy, right? And there's the white parent of that child, and there's the black mother of these two children, and you can see. To me, that's crazy. That's upsetting, right? And I definitely would have said something. But not everyone's the same, and there's different ways to get the same results. So you still got to respect it in some form or fashion. But it's important that these things are mentioned. It's important that these corporations don't get away with this. But also, it's important that you have workers who hide behind the corporations, who hide behind these masks, that they also don't get away with it as well too. So in either event, you still got to salute the fact that people are bringing attention to this, and hopefully it turns into a solution where it doesn't happen again. Because there are other videos out there that's pretty crazy and shocking. But what I want to do right now, I do want to wrap things up. We've been going for about an hour and 45 minutes. I did say I was going to only be for 90 minutes. So I appreciate both of you guys for coming in and adding to this discussion. SouljaBelle, Urban Therapist, I appreciate you guys. I do want to say in closing that again, whatever you feel is the solution to get you out of the conditions that you're in, I think it's important that you act on it. I think it's important that you follow through and you don't get discouraged. Whether it's group economics that you want to practice, or whether it's cutting loose from friends and family and doing things on your own, if that is the most viable solution for you, then I guess so be it, right? But at the end of the day, I don't think venting or complaining about people's circumstances is helpful. I think it's important that you focus on solutions. It's good to vent, of course, right? I mean, therapy sessions is all about venting in some ways as well, too. When you pay people money for that, right? If you do it for free, then I understand why people do that. But it's important that you also keep in mind that the main goal, the main focus should be on solutions, and it should be on finding the best solution for you and following through. And I think that's the most important thing. Whatever it is that you find is going to be your way to get out of your circumstance, follow through with that, and don't be discouraged and keep going. Belle, do you have anything you want to say in closing at all?
No, thank you for inviting me on.
No, I appreciate you coming in. It's been a while. I've been trying to get you on this for some time, so I appreciate you coming in. Urban Therapist, do you want to add anything in closing?
Oh no, no, you summed it up perfectly, bro. Salute to you, and I appreciate you invite me on as well.
No problem. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate it as well too. To everyone in the chat, as I mentioned, Morticia, Kayshawn, who else do I have here? Mark, Mahogany, thank you so much for coming in and adding your support and adding to the dialogue. I appreciate that. Money Boy as well too. I appreciate you coming in, showing support. In closing, as I always say, next move, best move. I really believe that. I think it's important that every step that you take is always supposed to be a better step that you take, a more calculated step that you take, a step that's going to move forward and not backward and not sideways, but forward to get you closer to your goals, to get you closer to your accomplishments, to get you closer to happiness and where you want to be. So that's why I always say next move, best move. Again, like, comment, subscribe, and share this live stream. Again, you can always feel free to reach me if you need to. You can reach me on my IG, part of my press. Subscribe as well too, and there'll be more to come. I do have two other videos coming soon in regards to the Sesame Street thing as well, but also in regards to Exhibit, who apparently is having a messy divorce with his wife. So I have a take on that as well too. So again, once again, next move, best move. I appreciate you all for joining. And until next time, part of my presence YouTube channel. Peace.